Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Distinguished Speaker Series. We're very excited to have Dr. Mara Karpel here today, and we're going to be talking about connecting to your passion and joy in times of stress and isolation. And I'm sure we can all relate to that and look forward to learning more. So a big thank you to Dr. Karpel for being here. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the La Jolla Community Center, my name is Nancy Walters, and I'm the Executive Director of the center. And we are a senior center, and we are here to serve adults and seniors in the community. We have daily programs online at the moment and hope to be open in the near future. But at the moment, all of our programs are virtual. We have daily classes ranging from art and yoga and meditation. You can find all of that information on our website, which is ljcommunitycenter.org. So I hope that you come back and see us again soon. We have speaker series like today's. Monthly, we have a Wednesday Connect series and a lot of other programs, and we hope to have you join us soon. So without further ado, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Dr. Karpel, and then I'll let her take it away. Dr. Mara Karpel has dedicated her life to guiding the way for adults, including seniors, caregivers, and veterans to overcome the challenges that prevent them from living a joy-filled and passionate life. Her book, The Passionate Life, Creating Vitality and Joy at Any Age, was published in 2018. And interweaves her expertise as a psychologist, her personal experiences, and the wisdom of today's thought leaders on physical, emotional, and spiritual health into her book. Dr. Karpel is the host of the radio show, Dr. Mara Karpel and Your Golden Years, and is a contributor to a number of publications, including Ariana Huffington's Thrive Global, Huffington Post, and several others. She has been in private practice for 28 years and has received her doctorate in clinical psychology from Syracuse University. Please help me welcome Dr. Mara Karpel.
Thank you, Nancy, and thank you to Barbara and Deborah as well, and thank you all for joining me and inviting me to be part of this distinguished speaker series. I'm so honored to be in the company of so many distinguished guests, and to have the opportunity to talk about my passion, which is helping people to create passion in their lives, no matter their age. But what I want to do before we get started is to do a little breathing exercise really quick, just to get people focused, more awake. It's better than a second cup of coffee, maybe. And just get us more attentive and in the mood, in the zone. So what I want you to do is we're going to start with just 3 slow breaths. So you're going to breathe in through your nose if you can, or through your mouth, to the count of 5. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all on the in breath. And then out to the count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's do that again. Hold it for a second and out. And then one more time in and then out. Okay, and now this is the wake up part. We're just going to do what's called in yoga the breath of fire, where we're just breathing in and out quickly through our nose or through your mouth, if that's more comfortable, and raising your shoulders up and down at the same time. We're just going to do it for a few seconds. So it's like, okay, and that's it. So I hope you're feeling a little bit more invigorated. I'm going to share my screen here with you and we'll get going. Okay, so what I'd like to do before I talk about the ways of creating passion is sort of give my background and how I found my passion. And that will, you know, my book, The Passionate Life, is really my journey in finding my passion, the things that I've learned along the way, as well as, you know, my experience as a psychologist and things that I've learned from my guests on my radio program. So I'm going to start off that way. So I was born and raised in New York City, and I now live here in Austin, Texas. And as Nancy mentioned, I received my doctorate from Syracuse University. It's actually almost 29 years ago. It's hard to believe that. And my specialty for the first several years in graduate school was working with older adults and with caregivers. So I worked in large nursing homes around the New York City area when I came back from Syracuse, and then moved to Texas about 18 years ago and started a private practice here in addition to going into independent and assisted living communities. And my private practice was with adults of all ages. And for the past several years, I've been evaluating veterans for PTSD and other service-connected conditions. I've also hosted my radio show, Dr. Mara Karpel Your Golden Years, for the last 9 years. The last 7 of those years have been on the internet so that I can have guests from all around the world and have people listening from all around the world. And my book came out, as Nancy mentioned, in 2018, and it started with writing for Huffington Post, and I started turning those blogs into chapters in my book. So that's a little bit about my professional life, and how did I get on this journey? So it was my sophomore year of college when a friend in my dorm suggested that I interview to work for the peer counseling center at Stony Brook. That's where I went to college undergraduates, State University of New York at Stony Brook. And she thought that I would be good at that I was good at listening to people's problems, and a lot of people ended up gravitating to me to tell me their problems, and I really enjoyed it. So I thought that would be something fun to do. So I interviewed and I got the position as a peer counselor. And I worked in the peer counseling center probably for about 3 or 4 semesters, but it was only my first semester that I actually had a client all that time. And that one client was a young man, a student who was suicidal. And I spent about 2 hours convincing him to not to commit suicide and to walk with me over to the peer counseling center. To the counseling center where the professionals were. And it was that day that I decided that I wanted to be one of those experts in the counseling center. And I called my parents and I told them I'm switching my major from engineering to psychology, and I'm going all the way to get my PhD in clinical psychology. They were a bit shocked and a bit worried because they knew how long that road was, but I was 19 and I was determined. So I achieved my dream and I became a psychologist, and I started working in New York and working in nursing homes. And I was doing that for a couple of years when I started to get woken up in the middle of the night, like I was supposed to be doing something more. And as you can imagine, that was kind of scary for me after I had just spent all those years. I was in graduate school for 8 years. That now there was something more that I was supposed to do. But I started, really investigating that. And I realized it wasn't that I didn't want to be a psychologist, it's that I wanted to do something more with it in addition to what I was doing. I didn't know what, but I started investigating with curiosity. And I became really excited that there was something, that I was on the edge of something, but I didn't know what it was. And I allowed that to be exciting for me, an adventure. And I started exploring. And this was really the first time that I discovered that the joy was in the journey, rather than waiting for the outcome. That exploration became my North Star. And I think that that is really the North Star that we can use even during these dark times, to have that feeling of adventure, that feeling of what can I do? I don't know what I want to do, but there's something, if we don't know what we want to do, there's something more, and I want to follow that. It's easy to get caught up in the stress of life and to think that this is it. But when we have a dream or we feel like there's something more and we passionately follow it, no matter our age, no matter how scary it may feel, it gives our life more direction and more meaning. One of my favorite authors, Dr. Wayne Dyer, wrote, "Don't die with your music still inside you. Listen to your intuitive inner voice and find what passion stirs your soul." So we all have something inside us. We all have something some gift that we can give to the world. And when we are doing that thing, or even looking to find out what that thing is, that's what gives our life more meaning. When I was working in one of those large nursing homes in New York, it was in the Bronx, I had a client who was very depressed, and she felt like she had no purpose in her life anymore. She was in a nursing home and she could not see any purpose in going on, and she was very depressed. And at that point, I had been exploring my own passion and trying different things, taking art classes and drawing at home, playing the flute that I had not picked up since I started college, meditating, going to meditation meetings. You know, I had been involved in all of these explorative things to just to kind of open up that creativity. And there was an art class at that nursing home once a week. There was an artist who came in and taught a class, and I would take my lunch breaks at that time and go to that art class. So I told her, "Why don't you come with me? Why don't you meet me at that art class tomorrow? I'm going to be there." And she was kind of negative about it. "No, I'm not very good at art. I don't, I can't even draw a straight line." And I said, "You know what? Why don't you just meet me there and try it out?" So she did. She came to the art class, and he gave us an assignment to draw or paint something, and she did it. And he came over, the art teacher, and said, "That is really great. You're really talented." And so she started to become really inspired and started to go to those classes every week. And before long, he was showing her paintings in galleries, and she didn't need me anymore. Her depression was gone. Because she found this purpose and this meaning in her life. And, when we are living in that zone, that feeling of curiosity and exploring different avenues in our life, that's when we're in what Gay Hendricks calls the zone of genius. Rather than getting stuck in what we feel we're supposed to do, but actually going out and experimenting and trying new things, and we're now in that feeling of excitement, that's the zone of genius. And as I said, it's easy to get stuck in the rut of feeling that we're supposed to be doing certain things, and we're supposed to be on this path for financial success, or the safer path, the one that people are expecting us to be on. And I've interviewed many guests on my radio show who have told me that they had jobs where they were making a lot of money, and they gave it up to do what they really love to do. So we need money, obviously, to live. And we need to earn a living to not just to have, the things in our life that we want, but sometimes we even need that to be able to follow our dreams, because some of the exploration costs money. So I don't tell people to, if they're working, to quit their day job. But I think it's important to make time to do this exploration and to do what we really love, and to ask ourselves the question, what is enough? How much is enough? Do we need to keep doing more and more and more? Do we need to keep making more and more money? How much is enough? How much can we live with and still and have the time to be able to do what we really love to do? And as I mentioned, following my dreams became my North Star through the darkness. So about 6 months into writing my book, my father passed away. And he was 93, but he was pretty healthy up to that point. So it wasn't expected. And that was a big blow. But having my radio program, having my book that I had just started writing to work on, that was my North Star to get me through that. And the way that I found the radio program and my writing of my book was through doing all these creative things. So that opened up my my ability to say yes to things. So when the opportunity came up to move to Austin, I moved to Austin. I thought that was a great idea. It was easier to live here financially than to live in New York City or the New York City area. When I had the opportunity to start the radio program, it was nothing that I had ever planned on, but I was given that opportunity and I went with it. And I discovered that I loved doing it, that it was my passion to share things that I've learned with my audience, to be able to interview authors of books that I loved and actually be able to talk to the author and ask them questions that I had always wanted to ask. And it was suggested that I write a book, and I remembered that I had always wanted to write a book, but I had kind of put it away. And my book became therapeutic for me, because every chapter in the book was writing myself out of difficulties that I dealt with in my life. And I felt a responsibility to my reader to, for me to find a way out and be able to share it with them. So it became very therapeutic for me. And that's what led me out of the darkness of dealing with the grief from my father's death. Not that the pain goes away, but I discovered that joy and pain can coexist. And in fact, my writing became better after my father died because I became more authentic. And I love the lyrics from Leonard Cohen's song that says, there's a crack in everything and that's where the light gets in. That crack in my heart made me more authentic, and having the passion to follow my dreams is what led me to be able to see that light. So how do you follow your dreams? So based on this, my experience, I discovered that you might not have a clear dream or know what, but you know that there's something more that you're supposed to do, that the world needs from you. Taking time to contemplate what that might be is a really important step. And being curious, trying things, being open, being childlike in trying things out, and most importantly, giving yourself permission to dream. Because when we're children, we have all sorts of dreams about what we want to do in this world. What we want to do with our life. And when we get older, we think that the more responsible thing is to put away those dreams. But to open up that childlike openness again, and to, to be able to dream, allow ourselves to dream. Reading, things to try out, reading books on new and interesting topics, just trying something appeals to you, just read a book about it. Take a writing class, take a painting class, take a music class, put your ideas on paper through words, drawing, painting, try dance or yoga, move your body. These things also help with creating that openness to trying more things. Try something new. Fly fishing is something new to try. And talk to people. To be interested in what they're doing. So Rabbi Naomi Levy, who's out there in California, she's the author of Einstein and the Rabbi. She was on my radio program, and she wrote about how so many of our so-called life questions are actually soul questions. And the answer lies within us. And every day of our life is calling us with a mission, something that we're supposed to do. And having a practice of meditation, walking in nature, doing something relaxing, listening to music, painting, drawing, doing all of those creative things that I just mentioned helps us to listen to what our soul is telling us, what she calls our soul's whispers. So pay attention. Spend time in meditation, engage in creative behaviors. These are the doorway to open up your heart, to hear your heart better. And then volunteering has multiple benefits. It gives you the opportunity to learn new things, to meet new people, to talk to new people. And it also has the added benefit of generosity. And generosity, and there are many, we'll talk about generosity in a moment. There are many different ways to volunteer, obviously, the whole range of activities to help other people, to help animals. All of this gives us a sense of purpose and fulfillment in your own life, and it adds to our passion. Again, more ways of volunteering: feed the homeless, spend time with the elderly, nurture animals, just some ideas for volunteering. So lighting your own inner light is half the formula. So asking yourself, how will I bring light into my life today, is a really good question to ask yourself every day. It can be life-changing to ask yourself that question every day when you wake up in the morning. Then bringing it into the world and bringing your light into the world, contributing light to the world, is the second half of the formula. How will I share my light with the world today? So these two questions in and of itself can be life-changing. I really propose that it's not possible to sustain passion without having compassion, without having that second half of the formula. Mindfulness teachers, meditation teachers tell us that there's no separate self, that we're all interconnected. So if we're trying to find passion without working on strengthening that compassion muscle, we won't really ever achieve it. It won't be sustainable. If we're just looking for fun things to do, but we're not contributing to the world, we're not bringing our gifts into the world and somehow using that to help other people or animals or the earth, then it's going to be short-lived. There are going to be days where you just don't feel like doing the thing that you think that you feel like doing. You know, every day isn't you don't feel motivated. But if you know that people are depending on you, that this is something that's going to bring joy into the world, that's what gets you up on those days. Our passion is about discovering what gifts you have to bring more light into the world. Passion's not all about you. So our compassion, while if we're just focusing on what do I like to do, and we're having a hard time sustaining that, our compassion can be a direct shortcut to our passionate life. When we help other people, that's what brings us joy immediately. Research has found that when someone is depressed, if they help somebody else, that brings them out of the depression much more quickly. Takes the focus off of yourself and puts the focus on helping someone else. So aside from helping you to find your path of passion, there are many health benefits to compassion and generosity. And here are some of the research findings to back that up. So compassion can be more effective than an antidepressant sometimes for increasing our feeling of well-being. It can increase our mood, our feeling of self-worth, our ability to learn, memory, sleep, health. A study done by I can't say her name, but a professor at the University of California found that acting in a kind manner increases the serotonin in the brain, which is a key neurotransmitter that's responsible for our mood, our energy, our sleep, our sharpness of thought, digestion, and health. She had students in her study, and the students who participated in her study were asked to commit 5 random acts of kindness per week over a 6-week period. And at the end of the study, these students were found to have an increase of 41.66% in their level of happiness from committing 5 acts of kindness per week for 6 weeks. So that's pretty powerful. The Mother Teresa effect is based on a study where participants in the study viewed videos of Mother Teresa helping other people. And what they found was that the participants had an increase in their immunoglobulin A, which is what we need to fight off illness. It builds our immune system. So even watching other people commit acts of kindness helps us. So if we commit acts of kindness, we're helping, of course, the person or the being, it's an animal who benefits from our act of kindness. We're benefiting ourselves because we have that increase of happiness, and we're also benefiting the people who observe us. I had an experience where I was sitting in a pizza place, a restaurant in the Bronx, down the street from where my mom currently lives. And it started to snow outside. It was pretty crowded in there and started to snow. And there was a man who had been shopping all day. He had walked from home. He was carrying all his packages, and now it was snowing and it was slippery outside. And he was asking the owner, can you give me the phone number for a taxi because I can't walk home with all my packages in the snow. And the taxi driver said, no, I'm not, they're going to charge you a fortune. My brother's going to drive you home. And his brother came out of the kitchen. He said, come on, take him home. And everybody in this pizza place just observed this. And we all looked at each other and we were all smiling. I know I felt really joyful. And everybody, all these strangers in the pizza place, we felt this bond that we had observed this beautiful act of kindness. There's a feeling, they call it the elevation feeling, this feeling of elevation where you feel like your heart just is expanding and now you want to go out and do something kind. So if you can't think of something that you really love to do, think of something that you're really good at that can help other people. And that can bring you right into that feeling of passion. These 2 doctors wrote a book. Again, I'm not going to say their names. I don't want to mess it up. They wrote a book about compassion. It's called Compassionomics, about compassion in the healthcare facilities and the beneficial effects on patients and their health when doctors have compassion. Imagine that. But what they found, what they state, the difference, people get confused that with empathy and compassion. Empathy is a feeling. It's that feeling that you can understand what another person is going through. So that is the prerequisite to compassion. Compassion is actually action. So it's telling us, I've got a chat here. Okay, all right. I'm not going to read those. I'm going to leave those for after. Okay. So, sorry, I got caught up in that. seeing a chat come through. Okay. So right now we're in the darkest time in the world, so that we've experienced for generations. We're in the midst of a pandemic that's still going on. It's affected people's livelihoods, people's health. Many people have lost loved ones. We're isolated. And we're also in a time where there's a lot of anger and fear due to the political divisions in our country and social injustice. So we're more challenged than we've been really in generations. And with a pandemic wreaking havoc on what it is to be normal, many feel that their path of passion that has been blocked. They've already been on this path of things that they love to do, and they're not able to do it. They're spinning their wheels. Many people have told me they feel like they're standing still, that the world has frozen, and they just have to wait until the world is back to normal before proceeding. But I truly believe that that our passion is more than just things that we enjoy doing, that it really is our dharma, that is our purpose, our right and true path. And right now, we can experience joy by doing something to help other people. That maybe this diversion that we've had from a path of passion, this detour, is really an opportunity for each of us to dig deeper, to find our true dharma. Again, when the world is at its darkest, it needs us the most. And we must ask ourselves, what can we do to bring more light into the world? It may not be the path that you were on in 2020, before 2020 began, I mean the beginning of 2020. And it may not be the path that you continue when things start to open up and lighten up. But right here, right now, in this moment, when you give whatever gift that you have to give, your smile, your energy, your kindness, your ability to communicate, your problem solving, art and music that you can contribute to the world, you're being called on to use any of your gifts right now. And we need it the most to bring light into the world. And you may discover that this is the exact path that is right for you, even when things open up. That maybe whatever it is that you find that you can do right now to help other people or help the world, this might actually be your calling that you want to continue on after things open up. Okay, so far we've learned that passion is purpose, whether this purpose involves changing a career, following an artistic or musical talent, organizing to make community changes, volunteering to help neighbors in need, or making a point to commit random acts of kindness. And as Rabbi Naomi Levy says, we need to listen to our heart's whisper. So throughout our life, our soul's been tugging at us, and we need to take the time to listen to what it is that our soul is telling us. And she says, the next time you feel a tug, don't let it slip away from you. Ask yourself, what was that? Reach for it, let it in, grab on, and follow our dharma. So now we're happily on our path. We've made some changes. We're doing things that we think are really our passion, or we're on our way to exploring to find out what our passion is. We're on our way to it. We know what it is. We're on our way to a goal. But suddenly we notice that when we do this, we're making waves. Other people aren't happy. As Scott Stable wrote, don't worry if you're making waves simply by being yourself. The moon does it all the time. So it's a given that when you're following your passion, there will inevitably be critics along your path. Some of them are critical because they're jealous, because they haven't found their passion, or they're too scared to follow their passion. They feel fearful that you're asking them to change because you're changing. And some of them are people that you love and they really care about you, but they're afraid for you that you're making changes, or that you might get hurt, or that it might change their relationship with you if you are on this new path. We need to be able to detox from toxic people while utilizing the constructive criticism that some people might have. You know, they might have some good points that maybe it might be safer for you to do it this way rather than that way. So how do you survive the critics? Well, Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the 4 Agreements, his first agreement was don't take anything personally. What others do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. So people often project onto us their fears. Practice meditation, mindfulness. Jack Kornfield, the mindfulness meditation teacher, says with mindfulness, we can see clearly. We can free ourselves from reacting to other people, and we can respond with wisdom. We can take a breath before we respond. And then speak to someone you trust to help to put things into perspective when you're getting a lot of negative feedback and you're really confused. Maybe a friend or a therapist or a mentor. And seek out like-minded people. Surround yourself with positive people who treat you with love and respect, who teach you what it's like to feel love and respect and to have that feeling for yourself. Because the next part of this is that we're often our own worst enemy. Sometimes we criticize ourselves more than anybody else. And that's why other people are so good at getting us to pressing our buttons, because they connect with that own criticism that that criticism that we have for ourselves. I call that the inner troll, because it feels like it's always trolling us. No matter what we're doing, this troll is following us around saying, you sure you should be doing that? Why would anybody want to listen to what you have to say? You're an imposter. These are really common voices that we have in our head. So some of the ways of taming that inner troll is treating yourself like you're worthwhile, even if you don't yet feel it. Do things that are kind and compassionate for yourself, no matter how you're feeling about yourself. So again, surround yourself with positive people. As I said, when you're surrounded with people who are really positive, not putting you down, treating you with respect, treating themselves with respect, they're modeling for you that behavior of how to treat themselves with respect, and they're giving you positive feedback about yourself. And stop listening to the negativity of other people. If people are, again, take that, the constructive criticism, leave out the negativity. And humor. I've written a whole chapter about humor in my book. It's so important to get us through difficult times, but being humorous about ourselves is really important. If we can't laugh at ourselves, then we're in big trouble. So another given is that the outcome will rarely look how we imagined it. And sometimes it's better, but often it's just different. So when we set ourselves on our path of passion with the idea that of what we want to achieve and how we want it to feel, it's always best to expect the reality that we don't know how it's going to turn out. Or if we'll ever achieve the goal that we set out to do, or how it'll look when we get there. Remember, the joy is in the journey. Once you reach your goal, you're going to have another goal. So getting used to enjoying the twists and turns and being flexible and surrendering to the obstacles. as the well-known, if you're in the meditation world, the well-known meditation teacher Pema Chodron wrote, we can try to control the uncontrollable by looking for security and predictability, always hoping to be comfortable and safe. But the truth is that we can never avoid uncertainty. This not knowing is part of the adventure. So just by showing up, no matter what, we allow the light to get in. If we demand that things be the way that we want them to be, then we will suffer because things won't be the way that we want them to be all the time. So along the way, we're going to have obstacles. Life is full of obstacles. And I survived the snowpocalypse here in Texas. And that was a huge obstacle. We were freezing here in the house. The temperatures outside were in the single digits at night, and we had no heat, no electricity. And the roads were completely blocked because they don't clear the roads when it snows or when it's icy. They just wait for it to melt. And it was below freezing for over a week. And we had 9 inches of snow. This was very unusual. 9 inches of snow on top of ice and sleet. So we couldn't get anywhere. We were stuck here until finally, after 2 days, we decided to risk the roads. The trucks had been driving on it enough to tamp it down, and we were just going to go where we had family, where their electricity and their heat had come back on. They didn't have water, so we brought water. But I wrote a whole blog about that, my lessons from the snowpocalypse. There are always going to be obstacles. The lessons very quickly were gratitude. I was so grateful that we were able to get somewhere warm and that we had people who took us in warmly. Having a sense of humor about it. We were sitting in the kitchen thinking, eating cold food in a cold kitchen by the dim light of a lantern, laughing about how we felt like we were in one of those post-apocalyptic movies. And surrender. So surrender is accepting what is. It's not being okay and happy with what is. It's not giving up. It can be called what Tara Brach, another meditation teacher, calls radical acceptance. We need to accept that this is the reality right now. And when we do that, then we can think more clearly about what we can do to fix the situation if we can. So that brings up the Serenity Prayer, to grant me the strength to change the things that I can change, the serenity to accept the things that I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's through surrender that we can get to that point. And then finally, when we're, living a life of passion is holistic. It involves our mind, our body, and our spirit. And when we're out of balance, we can get thrown off track. So I've written chapters in my book about each of these topics: relaxation, exercise, connecting with other people, communing with nature. They all take up a whole chapter because they're all really important. And anytime that we feel that we're out of balance and we're off track, we need to go back to the basics and look, are we doing these things? Are we eating well? Are we getting enough sleep? Don't run from the pain. Again, that's the surrender. Don't run from the pain, face it. Then the pain has less control over us. We can look at it at a deeper level and start to work at letting it go. So it's important to keep in mind all of these different aspects of living in order for us to stay on track to have a passionate life. They're all equally important. And then get started. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Just do something. Meditate. Start eating better. Exercise. Think about exploring new avenues. Do something compassionate. Any one of those things. Take one step at a time. then you notice that you start building up momentum. Connect with people who will inspire you. Talk to other people who are also on this journey of passion. That is extremely inspiring. And I like to say this at the end of all of my shows, youth has no age. No matter your age, whether you're 35 or 105, living a passionate life is finding meaning in your life. And you can find meaning in your life no matter your age, no matter your situation. And it looks, obviously it's going to look different for somebody who is like 105 than for a 35-year-old. How that looks, how that shows up in your life is going to be different. But we can remember that woman in the nursing home who I talked about earlier. She discovered painting, and this gave her meaning in her life. And her paintings were displayed for other people, inspiring other people. So that helped her to help other people. And here's the information about how to find out about listen to my radio show, find out about my radio show. You can listen, it's live on Sundays. It's 5 p.m. Central Time, which is 3 p.m. over there in California. Every Sunday, and you can also hear all of the prior shows for the last 7 years since we've been on the internet on my website, drmarakarpel.com. So all of that is there. You can find out about my book at my website. The book is available on Amazon. It's on Kindle. It's in paperback, and it's coming out in Audible before the end of this year. And you can read my blogs, find out about upcoming courses. And if you follow me on Facebook, Dr. Mara Karpel Your Golden Years, you'll find out all upcoming events. And we post before a new show, so you'll find out what's coming up in the next show, any announcements. So be sure to follow me on Facebook. And so now I'm going to open it up to questions. Nancy, do people have questions?
Thank you, Dr. Karpel. Wonderful information. Thank you for sharing this with us, and some learning lessons to take home. I'm sure we all have our valuable information that we each took from this presentation, but mine was just get started, as simple as that, get started. So there were some questions about how to contact you or to listen to podcasts, but you just added that information on for everybody. So if there's anyone who has a question, please feel free to use the chat function or the Q&A. We'll be happy to read those off for Dr. Karpel. I want to mention also about listening to my show. It's on my website, but it's also on blogtalkradio.com. But the easiest, if people like to listen on their phone, on their Apple Podcasts, it's on Apple Podcasts. Wonderful. Great to know that. And we don't have any information at the moment, but we will send it out as soon as we have any finalized information. We were talking to Dr. Karpel about adding a course through the La Jolla Community Center soon. So as soon as we have some information, we'll go ahead and send it out to the participants in case you're interested. But any additional, I'm just putting it out there for the participants, any additional questions for Dr. Karpel before we say goodbye? I don't see any others, though they were mainly of how to contact you and how to listen to your shows. So I think we answered that. If anybody wants to contact you directly, Dr. Karpel, is there the best way to do that is through your website?
They could go through my website, drmarakarpel.com, or they can send me an email to Dr. Mara, so it's DRMARA at drmarakarpel.com, drmarakarpel.com.
Wonderful.
I'm sitting in front of if people are wondering, it's the front cover of my book.
Gotcha. Great. And you can find that book you said on Amazon, correct? You can order it.
It's also in several other online booksellers. I'm not even sure. I know it went out to, I know Barnes and Noble. It's not on their ebook on Barnes and Noble. It's on Kindle from Amazon, but the paperback is available from Barnes and Noble online and a few other places. So
wonderful. Wonderful. Let me see. We just got a question. Says, suffering is fighting against reality. How can you do that? I'm not quite sure if the question there.
How can you stop fighting against reality, maybe?
Maybe, yeah. So suffering is fighting against reality. How can you do that, or how can you stop that?
So that was the point I was talking about with surrender. So it's difficult. You know, I'm talking from the experience just a couple of weeks ago when we were here in the house where the temperature went down to 40 degrees inside. It was very cold, and I felt like, you know, I had moments of suffering where I was just like, this can't be. I can't take it. I'm going to die. I mean, you know, all the extremes, especially in the middle of the night when you're just freezing and can't warm up under 5 layers of blankets. But the surrender is when I came to the point where I said, I can't change the situation right now. I can't go anywhere. I just have to do the best that I can to stay warm. I'm not going to die. I'm under 5 blankets. And I just have to be, you know, I think a big part of it were the other 2 parts of that, which were gratitude. I was grateful that I'm in a house that I didn't have burst water pipes, so I didn't have the added issue of dealing with freezing cold water running through my house, which a lot of people did. I had 5 blankets to be under, and having humor, being able to just laugh at this crazy situation. So that was all part of it, but continuing to just bring myself back to, this is reality and I cannot change it. So I need to just chill out until I can change it. And that's when you can think more clearly. So it was after 2 nights where we were able to say, hey, I think it's okay now to try to take the roads and to get out of here. We do need to leave here. So, you know, I think when I was suffering, when I was not surrendering, when I was fighting it, I was using up the energy that I really needed to think clearly, to stay warm. It's amazing how much energy it takes to stay warm when the atmosphere is so cold for an extended period of time. So it's a hard issue, but I think that constantly breathing. Tara Brach has a really good meditation. The meditation teacher, Tara, T-A-R-A, Brach, B-R-A-C-H, she has meditations on YouTube that are free. And the meditation for radical acceptance is called RAIN, R-A-I-N. And I encourage you to follow that meditation when you're feeling like you're suffering, because that goes really into the feeling and being able to take care of yourself and at that time so that you can, so she calls that radical compassion. She wrote a book about that as well, being able to have compassion and nurture yourself at those times that you're really suffering. So I hope that answered the question.
It did. I received a message and she said, thank you for the response. I just want to read, there was a quote by one of the attendees. She said, this is a related quote that she likes and just wanted to share it. It says, serenity is realized when you stop wishing for a different past.
Yep. That's a good way of putting it. We can't change the past. We can't change this moment. We can change the next moment, but we can't change the current moment.
Great, thank you. Any additional questions for Dr. Karpel? I think we addressed them. So I think we're all set. So again, thank you so much, Dr. Karpel, for joining us for our Distinguished Speaker Series. Everybody, again, who attended, thank you so much. I hope you stay well. Have a great rest of the day. And thank you again, Dr. Karpel. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.